When you think about loneliness, what's the first thing that comes to mind? That hollow feeling of vacancy, an unsettling sensation that makes your stomach feel twisted and sick, or maybe it even evokes a physical reaction out of you, like the urge to cry. Loneliness is something that affects everyone at some point, in some way. It's isolating, cold, silent, and sometimes even distressing. But what if I told you that there's power in being alone, that loneliness doesn't have to just start and end with pain, that you can harness it and turn it into something nurturing? I started June of this year feeling pretty good, actually. I was soaking in new friendships and just came back from one of the best trips I've had in San Diego with my loved ones. But as the month went on, I felt myself slipping deeper and deeper into that same old lonely spiral. To be real with you guys for a sec, my loneliness just loves to do this cute thing where it makes me think that everyone secretly hates me and I'm annoying as hell. And that, in turn, makes feeling creative very difficult. I tend to thrive the most creatively when I'm in a good place mentally, which I know kind of defies what most people know about artists and things like that. But the better I feel, the easier it is for my ideas to flow naturally when I put pen to paper, or pen to tablet, I guess. I had a series of not so great things happen over the span of like 2 or so months since then. My self-worth plummeted, unfortunately, and I felt very distant and isolated from everyone around me. Disagreements, loss of connections with certain people, and things left unsaid. I fell down the rabbit hole and just kept on tumbling. Even though I had people around me who showed me support, like friends and family, the things that filled up my brain started to overflow and just take over completely. I turned 28 last month in August. It's an age that feels very ill-fitting for me, in my opinion. I still feel like I'm 23 or 24, just trying to figure things out and find my forever connections, I say with air quotes. I still get anxious going to doctor's appointments by myself. I struggle to call my bank. Whether you're an artist like me, or just someone who finds themselves in these lonely spirals, I'm sure this concept will resonate with you in some way. The life of an artist can be inherently very, very lonely. We spend so much time by ourselves, which is important for our development, of course, but it doesn't leave much room for human connection. Especially as adults, artists or other, it's difficult to engage with people and make new friends. I thought that by this age, I'd have a big friend group and wouldn't even have the chance to feel lonely at all. I've always considered myself to be an ambivert, drifting somewhere in between gaining energy from connecting with people, while also having those moments where I just need to take some time to refuel on my own. Something I've learned over the course of being alone is using this time of solitude to my advantage. We're always so busy, especially as adults, or even if you're just a student in general. I feel like everyone is just extremely busy in the kind of society we live in. Rushing to meet deadlines or trying to not miss out on things that make us feel alive. But in those quiet moments in my room, I've been trying to harness loneliness as an opportunity to recharge and live in the moment. I tried to practice mindfulness off and on, even though it can be very tricky when you have ADHD like I do. Sitting down with a comfy playlist, a snack, my favorite comfort K-drama. I give myself a pat on the back for all the things I tried to do that week, regardless of whether I succeeded at them or failed at them. I allow myself to leisure around, and if I start to feel anxious about sitting still and being alone, I take a deep breath, close my eyes, and try to unravel each little thing I did that day to remind myself that even waking up to a fresh new day is something to be proud of. So I've been thinking a lot about the concept of loneliness and how I could best express the physical sensations of it in a visual way. And I know that may sound a little confusing at first, but just bear with me for a moment. Something that's really therapeutic for me, as most of you already probably know, is illustrating my emotions and transforming them into something tangible, making them into a visible entity in a way that I can look at in the present and look back on in the future. To be completely candid with you guys, without going into too much detail, I went through a little bit of a falling out with someone who I consider to be a pretty good friend of mine a couple of months ago. I've always struggled with social anxiety my entire life and making friends and retaining friendships overall. Especially now that I'm an adult, I feel like it's so much harder to make new friends as well. So that whole experience honestly really sent me into a pretty bad destructive spiral. But something that did come out of that experience that I'm honestly really proud of is the illustration, the art piece that I made made when I was in the thick of that loneliness and self-doubt. Now, of course, that whole experience and situation wasn't the sole reason that I created this illustration, but it was kind of like a culmination of many different things that happened throughout this year that made me feel really isolated and alone, all just kind of piling on top of me, especially within like a very close span of time, that led me to have some very unexpected but honestly very, very welcome inspiration. And I know there's a whole topic and conversation surrounding artists who are suffering and we're only able to create the most amazing art when we're absolutely suffering and at our lowest. That's a whole other topic for another video, but I really did just want to express how much you can turn something that is painful and frustrating and honestly very disappointing into something beautiful and something that can really be therapeutic to you when maybe you don't have the resources or don't have the circumstances where you're immediately able to make yourself feel better again. So I named this illustration Lonely Star for a few reasons, actually. I wanted to really express the sharp and jagged physical sensation that loneliness and anxiety tends to inflict onto me in a very physical or metaphysical way. In terms of physical sensations, I always equate that metaphysical feeling to prickly thorns against my skin or inside of my chest, and this overwhelming sense of gravity weighing me down. And it might sound kind of funny when I explain it like that, which is why I do use the word metaphysical, even though I'm not even sure if that's the right usage of the term, but it's kind of like a physical, non-physical sensation in a way. I don't know how else to describe it, but it's really interesting, and I would also be really interested to know if some of you guys know what I'm talking about and experience mental and emotional things in that sort of metaphysical way like I do. But I really did want to express that visually in Lonely Star, with the thorny plants weaving around her extremities and tugging her down to the ground, leaving her kind of bound and helpless in a way. And just so you guys can get a really good example of it, I will definitely show it on the screen for you guys as well. In some ways, the comfort that we find in familiarity can honestly feel like a safety blanket in a way. To be completely honest with you guys, and I'm sure you know exactly what I'm talking about when I explain this, but the familiarity that we feel in these kinds of negative emotions, especially when we've been exposed to them for so long and over so many years, can make it really, really difficult to break out of that spiral and that cycle. Even though the sense of loneliness is really painful and distressing at times even, rather than opening myself up to people and potentially getting myself hurt, why not just go back and retreat under that same exact blanket of loneliness? It's a fear of the unknown in a way, because even though loneliness feels painful and in a metaphysical way very thorny and prickly, there's a beauty in that kind of sadness that brings people solace. It's a very complex feeling, and it's why a lot of people, especially people who may be struggling with other mental health issues like depression, anxiety, other things like that, they tend to get stuck in those spirals because they're familiar, they're comfortable. It's nothing too new. It's something that they're used to, even if it doesn't feel good. It's a pain that I can expect, predictable and manageable, but the unknown, putting yourself out there, not knowing how it's going to go, now that's scary. But in reality, that's not how any of us want to live in the long term, right? Retreating into places we're certain of, regardless of how isolating they may be, can feel so safe. But that bittersweet path will only, inevitably, lead us toward more and more burnout. I remember being hit with so much guilt a couple months ago. I retreated and I felt the thorny vines that I talked about before bind me tighter and tighter into place. But then I remembered something very important, that I'm human too. With all my flaws and all my shortcomings, I'm allowed to exist just as much as anyone else. I can take up space, I can speak my mind, I can laugh and have fun, I can cry, I can try my best, I can succeed and fail. I'm allowed to live. In those moments of loneliness, I managed to have that epiphany, and it honestly changed so much of how I viewed life overall. I undoubtedly still struggle, but I feel a lot lighter, and I place a lot less blame on myself for all the things that might not have worked out as I had initially hoped they would. I might not always do or say the right things, but I can take those times of loneliness to reflect, to do better, and to remind myself to never stop putting myself out there, regardless of how many times I might slip up or fail. I won't be everyone's cup of tea, and that's okay. I won't always have a friend who can fill up that empty space when I feel alone, and that's okay too. Becoming comfortable enough to sit with just yourself, to take a breather, and be able to reflect without tearing yourself down with harsh criticisms is a skill that I think everyone should honestly learn. Instead of viewing the lonely times as a personal failing on your part, or the chance to spiral into this chaotic thinking, look at them as an opportunity. Spend time with yourself like you would a friend, and treat yourself with that same level of care. Talk to yourself about your own worries, and wrap yourself in understanding like you would a loved one. Give yourself the time and the space to learn. Create something out of negative emotions and experiences, like how I illustrated Lonely Star to fit my emotions into something tangible. Take a walk alone in nature and find beauty in the world around you. But no matter what, don't stop yourself from sharing who you are with the world. Don't let loneliness become your only friend. This is a bit of a nerdy analogy, but for those of you who play video games, you know how most games tend to have like save points or save rooms to keep your progress, heal yourself, and sort out your inventory? Think of those quiet moments in solitude that you'd typically have taken up by longing and loneliness as a sort of rest point, or even a checkpoint. It's the perfect opportunity to be with yourself and reset, allowing yourself to recharge and try again the next time an opportunity comes up. I do actually have the Lonely Star illustration now available on my online shop, Prismano.com, as an art print that you can now get. It's an 8.5 by 11 inch art print, and as I showed you before, that's exactly what it looks like. Let me show it to you guys one more time, just in case you forgot. So you can now get this beautiful 8.5 by 11 inch art print of my Lonely Star illustration on Prismano.com. I also have a link in the description box where you can just easily click on it and add it to your cart and check out. And I am so excited to have finished this piece. It's one of my favorite illustrations from 2025, so I would love it if you guys could give her a home and make her feel a little less lonely. I now have a brand new rewards and VIP tier list system on Prismano where you can earn points and then exchange them for things like discounts, and for anyone living in the United States, you can get a free shipping discount as well. So definitely check that out. I also have that program linked in the description box below, where not only orders will count towards getting points, but things like birthdays and doing little activities like following me on social media, like on Instagram and Twitter and etc. And I also have a bunch of other really cool products that you should definitely check out before they sell out, because a lot of the stock that I have on Prismano.com will not be restocked once it sells out, because I'm making some room for some brand new collections and projects to come in 2026. I've decided to name my little community the Sea Milk Club, so if you want to join the Sea Milk Club, you can go down in the description box below, check out all of the rewards you can get, and see how many points you can rack up, and that'll definitely earn you some really cool discounts. So if you like this video, be sure to give it a thumbs up, and don't forget to subscribe to my channel if you want to see more content from me. Yada yada yada. All the YouTuber stuff. Share it, like it, subscribe, bell icon, you know the drill. And don't forget to leave me a blue heart emoji so that I know you reached the end of this video. Until next time, my friend.